You are Locked On Rams Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Los Angeles, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Oh man, does that hurt. What is going on, Ramley? Welcome back to the latest edition and the final edition this season of the Locked On Rams Postcast. Coming at you live, as always, after every single Rams game right here on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel, and after the fact, both on the channel and wherever you get the Locked On Rams audio podcast feed. If you don't know who I am, what's going on, everybody? I'm Gavin Carlson, former credentialed journalist in the Los Angeles area, was covering UCLA football and basketball with the Daily Bruin, now part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Our team is the Rams, and the season is over for our beloved Rams. They fall just short, 28-22 in a snowy Philadelphia. Too many mistakes from the offense, and the defense once again gets destroyed by Saquon Barkley. We'll talk about all of it. The comeback, it would have been improbable. It falls just short. So many things to talk about in this one, of course, and we're going to get to all of it. But before we do, shout out first and foremost, as always, to you guys right here. Obviously, with this being the last game of the year for the Rams, this is the last postcast of the year in the first year of the Rams postcast. And so I have to say thank you to everybody, whether this is your first show, whether you're here every week, whether you watch live and are leaving comments like a Craig here saying, hi, Gavin. If you're like Craig, who's always leaving comments, if you're someone who's watching in the shadows, if you're someone who listens the day after on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, whatever, I appreciate all of you so much. It's been a fun year, and it certainly hurts as a Rams fan for it to end this way. But man, shout out to you guys. What a fun year it was for me. And also, as always, shout out to the sponsor of today's show. It is Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Now, of course, so many things to talk about. Obviously, it's a playoff game, the NFL divisional or the NFC divisional round. And even just coming into this game, the stakes changed a little bit. Not that you needed any more motivation to win a playoff game, but knowing that the winner of this game is hosting the Commanders next week, not traveling to Detroit. This really feels like, or it felt like coming into this game, the winner of this game might be the favorite to go to the Super Bowl, even if it's the Rams, because obviously the Commanders, so impressive yesterday, but still going on the road, you have the opportunity, both of these teams, to host the NFC Championship game. What an opportunity. And man, the Rams just let this one slip away. Let's be honest. People are going to, of course, say, zoom in on that last drive and talk about the Rams falling short on that last drive. And of course, I'm going to talk about that last drive, but it didn't need to come down to the Rams needing 2 touchdowns in the final 4 minutes of a game. And sure, they almost did it, but it did not need to come to that. Big time mistakes from stars for the Rams. Kyren Williams, such a costly fumble. Matthew Stafford, a costly fumble. The defense really played well all game. And so we're going to get in this last drive because we have to talk about it, of course, really the last 2 drives, how the Rams almost came all the way back, but did fall short. But then we're going back to those fumbles. We're going back to those missed opportunities in, of course, the third quarter, but the second quarter and the first quarter, the Rams really outplayed Philly throughout most of this game. And that's why this loss hurts so much. But of course, we have to talk about those final 2 drives of the game for the Rams. And you're down 13 points. You give up a Saquon Barkley bomb. We will certainly get into Saquon later in this show as well. But you're down 28-15, just over 4 minutes to go. And the Rams have by far their best drive of the game. 10 plays, 70 yards in a minute 48. You march down, you get a touchdown, a couple great throws, great catches. Colby Parkinson finishes it off with a 3rd and goal touchdown from Stafford. It's a 6-point game. And then the Rams defense, like it did all game, outside of a couple Saquon Barkley home runs, just shutting down this Philly offense. Exactly what you want, a 3-and-out. They actually lose 3 yards on the drive, immediately punt it back to the Rams, and the Rams have almost 2.5 minutes to march down the field, down by 6, and win this game and steal this game and host an NFC Championship game. And at the end of the day, it comes down to one play, in my opinion. 3rd and 2. And Matthew Stafford is sacked for 9 yards. Now, once again, I say it every show. I'm not going to act like I know more about football than Sean McVay, but how in the world, on a 3rd and 2, you only need 2 yards? You don't need to have 5 guys spread out, empty formation, and needing to generate 20 yards down the field. You need 2 yards. How in the world do you go empty set and let Jalen Carter run through your offensive line, sack Matthew Stafford, and put the Rams in a 4th and 11? It's 3rd and 2. And of course, I get the logic. Empty it out. We have 5 receivers. We have, several elite receivers in Cooper Kupp and Puka on the field. You have a Tyler Higbee on the field. You spread it out, and you're going to complete the pass. Quick throw, right? Kyren Williams did start in the backfield. Let me correct myself, but he leaks out immediately. So it ends up being an empty formation. Correcting myself right now before people come at me in the comments. Yes, it was not an empty set. Kyren Williams was in the backfield, but he immediately leaks. So you've got only 5 guys blocking. 5 guys go out. The quick read was not there, and Jalen Carter runs through the offensive line. I have enough confidence in this offense, in our weapons, in Cooper Kupp, in Puka Nacua, that you can leave one more guy in there to block, and you're still going to be able to pick up 2 yards, right? You're not trying to pick up, 15 yards on 3rd down. You need 2 yards. You don't need 5 guys out there trying to catch the pass and only having your 5 offensive linemen blocking. Matthew Stafford is good enough that you have 4 guys running the route. You give them enough time to make the first read. If it's not open, make the second read. Even that, if that's not open, maybe you have time for a third. He's going to complete a 2-yard pass. But instead, Sean McVay and the Rams elect to have Kyren Williams slip out of the backfield. It's just 5 offensive linemen against that elite Eagles defensive line. And Jalen Carter, one of the best defenders in the NFL, runs through our offensive line, sacks Matthew Stafford, and a 3rd and 2 at the 13, where if you handle that correctly and you complete a 2-yard pass, you're talking about 1st and 10, maybe 1st and goal to win the NFC Divisional Round, to host an NFC Championship game. 1st and goal. 1st and goal. Gosh, it hurts so much. It hurts so much. And to see this team come from, the beginning of the year, when you're losing all those games because your offensive line can't block, and to have it end because your offensive line couldn't block and because you didn't help your offensive line like you should have, hurts, man. It hurts. It hurts. If you lost that game because, it was a shootout and they just had the ball last, if you lost that game because it was close, but then they had one big play from Barkley, and we're going to get to the amount of credit I'm going to give the Rams defense. But for you to lose the game, really the only reason you lost most of your games this season, by having your offensive line get overpowered in a key moment, it stings. It stings. And so, of course, that puts the Rams in 4th and 11. And through the snow, the ball coming out weird, basically on every Matthew Stafford throw. You know how good the Eagles secondary is. 4th and 11 with the game on the line with 30 seconds to go. Too much to ask. Too much to ask. And so I'm not going to say the 4th and 11 was the play that decided it. It has to be the 3rd and 2, the play before. And it's a common theme in this game because let's not forget the Rams having a 1st and goal and having a big negative play, forcing a field goal there. Let's not forget, once again, Kyren fumble when you have all the momentum coming off a safety. You fumble it away. The defense, even after that, does its job. And then another fumble for Matthew Stafford. We can't forget about 3rd down drops from Puka Nacua on the sideline. And of course, none of it would have mattered if that Puka Nacua deep ball on the sideline on that final drive eventually led to a touchdown, right? None of it would have mattered. If the Cooper Kupp deep ball catch, if it all led to game-winning touchdown, everyone would have forgot the couple questionable routes and catches from Cooper Kupp, the drop from Puka Nacua, the fumble from Kyren, the fumble from Stafford, couple poor reads from Stafford. You would have forgotten all of it if you won the football game, of course. And it would have been about that last drive being the game winner. But because it wasn't a game winner, you have to analyze that drive, but then you have to talk about all the key mistakes. Just so many. The Eagles did not really win this game. Let's be honest. Outside of 2 home runs from Saquon Barkley, what did the Eagles do today? I mean, Jalen Hurts had a home run as well. Outside of 3 home runs, they didn't do anything, like anything. I mean, you look at a game like yesterday where the combined score is 76 points when there's like over 50 points in the first half, and you say, okay, sure, Jameson Williams had a big play. Jahmyr Gibbs had a big play. Terry McLaurin had a big play. But then, on top of that, each team had long, sustained drives, 4th down conversions, goal-to-goal situations, big plays. Not the Eagles today. They had the 3 home runs, Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley twice, but they did nothing otherwise. Nothing. So to lose that game when really outside of 3 plays, you were the better team, it hurts. It hurts. And so when we come back from our first break, we're going to talk a little bit more about what my mindset was coming into this game. I talked about it on last week's show, how it needed to be an ugly game. It needed to be an ugly game. And that's what we got in the second half. I mean, it was 5-3, the score in the third quarter. In the second quarter, it was 3-0 Rams. There was nothing going on outside of the first and fourth quarter in this game. Snow played a factor. Injuries played a factor. You got the ugly game that you could have gone out there and win. But when you have all the key mistakes in a game that's that close, you're never going to win. And you still almost did. And that's why it hurts so much. We're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to talk about those big plays from the Eagles and why that completely went against what the game plan needed to be for the Rams coming into this one. We'll talk about that and so much more after our first break here on the Locked On Rams Postcast. Now, today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn. Growing your small business in 2025 comes down to how well you can hire. And let's face it, better hires start with smarter insights. That's where LinkedIn comes in. With the strongest hiring data available, LinkedIn helps you identify the right candidates, giving you the confidence to make the best decisions for your business. I've used LinkedIn Jobs myself, and I can tell you, it's a game changer when it comes to hiring the right fit. Small businesses are wearing a lot of hats, so every hire is crucial. LinkedIn gets it. That's why they connect you with the best candidates using data you won't find anywhere else. From unique skills and interests to the connections you share, LinkedIn helps you find the right person for the job. In fact, 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn has helped them find high-quality candidates. And, I always say it, I have every aspect of LinkedIn I've used in the past. I'm a fresh college grad. I found my current job with the Clippers using LinkedIn. I also used to work for a recruiting firm where we would use LinkedIn to hire candidates, just like I'm talking about. I know from experience how important it is to use LinkedIn and take advantage. So hire smarter this year and find your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks. It's certainly playoff time. And if you're like me, you want to make the most of these final weeks of football action. That's where Prize Picks comes in. If you love football and want a chance to win real money while watching the games, Prize Picks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less on player stats, like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns, and for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds, and whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or want to cash out quickly, Prize Picks has got you covered. And with over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it's clear that people are loving this platform. Here's a special offer for Locked On NFL listeners. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Prize Picks. Run your game. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, Prize Picks. Run your game. Back here live on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel. This is the Locked On Rams Postcast, and man, oh man, it still stings. Of course, it still does. It just happened. Rams fall. Their season ended in a snowy Philadelphia, 28-22 against Saquon Barkley and the Philadelphia Eagles. 2 key fumbles, Kyren Williams and Matthew Stafford, as well as a comeback that fell just short. A questionable 3rd and 2 call, and the Rams are going home, missing out on the opportunity to host the NFC Championship game. Now, I have to talk about the defense, and especially because I'm going to see things like this. Like, Robert here, and no disrespect to you, but the point of this show, the point of all this is to have opinions and discuss things. He says that Chris Shula did not exactly have a great game plan today. And he says the Rams are one of the worst tackling teams there are. That's why people ran up huge amounts of rushing yards. None of our DBs know how to stop anybody. I agree and disagree at the same time. Because, of course, just like the first game, Saquon Barkley ends the game with a huge box score, or stats-wise. 26 carries, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns. Last time we played, career high, 250-something yards, 2 touchdowns. But Saquon Barkley, he had a couple huge carries, once again. And outside of that, they limited him. The interesting thing with Saquon Barkley, I mean, he's amazing, of course. And this match made in heaven with him and the Eagles offensive line and Jalen Hurts running threat and all of that. It's a perfect match. And it's why they are probably, the second or third favorite to win the Super Bowl all year. And they're 2 wins away from that now. But it's a unique thing with Saquon Barkley compared to other running backs. With other running backs, with other offenses, it's pretty simple in terms of you have 2 high safeties. The quarterback, his read is to run the football because you've got 2 safeties, 2 defensive backs that aren't going to be in the run box. You're going to have that advantage typically most of the time, numbers-wise. If you see 1 high safety, that's normally your signal to check out of a run and pass the ball. They're going to have more guys in the box, less guys on the back end, right? That's the first thing. I've never played quarterback in my life, but if you know ball, if you watch, these YouTubers, these former quarterbacks, if you listen to anybody tell you the first thing quarterback does when he walks up, he looks at the safeties. If there's 2, we're running the ball. We got the advantage. If there's 1, we're throwing the ball. Of course, there's nuance. There's guys moving around. There's defenses disguising their coverages and whatnot. Of course, nowadays there's pre-snap motion and Mike linebackers, all that. I get it. But that's what you start a play with, right? But against the Eagles, it's so unique because the Eagles, you have single high safety against them. You load the box, and sure, it means that most of the time, the Eagles, when they do run the ball in that coverage, are going to get stopped. Chris Collinsworth said it. He's like, and this was before Saquon's first or second big run, when he only had 1 big run. They're like, yeah, he had 1 carry for, a 55-yard touchdown or whatever. But outside of that, 10 carries for 32 yards is what he said at one point. 3 yards a carry against Saquon Barkley is fantastic. And it's because the Rams loaded up the line of scrimmage, which ironically they said they weren't going to do after getting burned on 2 big rushing plays last time they faced him. They did it again today, and it worked for the most part. But ironically, against Saquon Barkley, loading the line of scrimmage can be a disadvantage. And against most running backs, that's not the case. Maybe Jahmyr Gibbs is the only other one who has that level of breakaway speed combined with that level of breaking tackle ability where every play there's a home run threat. Everybody else, if you have 1 safety back there and you load up the line of scrimmage, you're going to limit the running back on every carry. For Saquon, it was every carry but 2 or 3. The problem is one of them was a 55-yard touchdown or something like that, and the second one looked like the dagger, a 78-yard touchdown on the first carry of a drive when you're, of course, selling out to stop the run. So I don't know if I agree with a guy like Robert in here. I totally respect your opinion. And certainly you have a case saying that Chris Shula didn't have the right game plan. Because if Saquon, the reason he lost to the Eagles last time was because Saquon had 2 huge runs and you give up 2 more huge runs again today. Certainly the argument could be he didn't have the right game plan. But outside of those, he didn't do anything. You stopped him outside of that. And that's why it's so tough. And it's easy to say after the fact because you lose, it was the wrong decision. But imagine if instead of that, instead of trying to sell out and stop the run, you tried to hold his runs to 5 or 6 yards. And imagine Saquon runs for 6 yards a carry, and it's just he gets 6 yards every carry, and the Eagles march down the field, and score 28 points anyways. Then you would have said that's the wrong decision. But instead, he has 3 yards to carry every carry, except for 2 50-plus yard carries, and he ends up rushing for 7.9 a pop. It's tough. It's tough. Certainly there's an argument on Robert's side because at the end of the day, the Eagles offense outside of those home runs looked pretty pedestrian. So maybe the argument could be made, hey, the same way You want to limit the big play against the passing offense, limit the big play against the rushing offense, and see if they're okay with running it for 5 yards of carry, 5 yards of carry all the way, 80 yards, 70 yards. Who knows what would have happened? Who knows what would have happened? But the Rams elected to try to stop Saquon, not limit him, not prevent the home run and give up doubles. They wanted to try to strike him out or hold him to single. And they held him to ground outs all game long. But then he hit 2 home runs. And the other thing I have to say about this is it felt like the more the weather got messy, the more it was going to help the Rams, in my opinion, because the Eagles are a much better big play team, a much better deep passing game team, in my opinion, even though Matthew Stafford is better than Jalen Hurts. We know how the Rams have had most of their success this season. It's 15-yard passes to Puka. It's quick screens to Cooper Kupp and Puka. It's play action passes. It's quick screens, or it's play action halfback screens to Kyren. It's the occasional deep ball down the sideline to Puka or Cooper or Demarcus Robinson, but it's not like the Eagles who are trying to hit A.J. Brown 30 yards down the field and then hit Devontae Smith 30 yards down the field, right? And so my opinion is whenever it's messy, it's always going to benefit the underdog, typically, in my opinion, but especially in this matchup where it feels like the Rams are better at having long, sustained drives than they are at having big play drives in comparison to the Eagles. And with this weather aspect, the first half was the time to have the big plays. And ironically, both teams did. Of course, you knew the Eagles were going to have the big plays. It's what they do, right? The big play to Saquon on the run, but also the big Jalen Hurts run, couple deep balls. But the Rams had big plays in the first half too. And so when I saw the 45-yard passes to Demarcus Robinson and the huge carries from Kyren Williams and the kick returns and all that, I was like, wait a second, guys, the Rams might win this football game. They're beating the Eagles when things are in favor of the Eagles in terms of the conditions. And then when it gets snowy and ugly, give me the Rams in that environment. That was my mindset, especially with the way the defense was playing in terms of creating havoc in the backfield, sacking Jalen Hurts, forcing a safety, Kobe Turner, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk before he got hurt, all over the place. I really thought that when it was 13-10 going into halftime, even though there was missed opportunities for the Rams to be up then, when you go in, when you have that safety on Jalen Hurts and it's 16-15 Eagles and the Rams have the football, I thought the Rams were going to win the game at that point. I really did. Because it felt like the Rams just needed to march down, have one of those nice long Rams drives, 15 plays, 60 yards, punch it in, maybe go for 2, go up 7. And I'm liking the Rams up 7 in the snow. I'm sorry. Give me that. But instead, Kyren fumbles. The defense still does its job. Holds them to a field goal. Stafford fumbles. And then at that point, I thought the game was over. Saquon Barkley, home run, certainly at that point thought it was over. And so credit to Stafford, credit to the whole team for coming back, scoring that first touchdown, and almost having the game-winning drive at the end there. But when you go down, when you get a safety to make it 16-15 and fumble the ball back-to-back possessions, when all the momentum was on your side, oh, it's going to stink for a while. It really, really is. So sorry if that was a rant, if my mind's all over the place, but come on, guys. Oh, you lose a playoff game by 6 points and you really should have won it. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. It's going to hurt all off season. I'm going to take my last break here. When I come back, we have to talk about the season in review, right? At the end of the day, the season is over. The Rams lose in the divisional round of the playoffs. Is this a successful season? I know I talked about it at the end of the regular season. We'll talk about it, what the final verdict is, what grade you would give this year after our last break here on this last edition this season of the Locked On Rams Postcast. I'll be right back. Now, finally, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is really easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keep every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Back here live, one final time on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel, the Locked On Rams Postcast. I'm Gavin Carlson. Once again, the Rams fall 28-22. Saquon Barkley runs for over 200 yards again, and a comeback attempt from the Rams where they needed 2 touchdowns late. They got one of them. They got all the way inside the 15 on that final drive, but a costly 3rd and 2 sack and a 4th and 11 incomplete pass sinks Stafford and the Rams offense as they have their season ended in a snowy Philadelphia. Now we have to talk about this season as a whole. It's tough to grade this one, let's be honest, because once again, coming into the year with how good you always expect the Niners to be, it felt like wild card, maybe competing for the division was the expectation. A lot of question marks about this extremely young and inexperienced defense and aging offense. You were thinking, okay, Rams wild card team. If there is a slip up from the Niners, maybe you steal the division. And then you start the season the way the Rams did. And there was one point there when the Rams fell to 1-4. It felt like the season was over. I mean, how many teams make the playoffs after 1-4? Not many, right? So you fall to 1-4. It feels like the season's over. And then what do? You win 3 in a row. You get right back to 4-4. And then when do you win 4 in a row again? In the final 5 games of the year, you beat the Bills, you beat the Niners, you beat the Jets, and you beat the Cardinals, and you clinch the NFC West with a game in hand. At that point, you win your division, the season is an A. The season is an A. You win the division after a 1-4 start, the season is an A+. And then you win a playoff game for a team that many expected this to be the year where things fall apart. And then maybe you're talking about Stafford getting traded. They were talking about Stafford getting traded when we were 1-4. And you go from 1-4 to winning the division with a week in hand and then winning a playoff game with everything going on in LA. And then you have a chance to win the game in the NFC Divisional Round. I can't really say this season is anything more than an A or anything less than an A. I would probably say it's an A+, given that you started 1-4. If you told me before the season started the Rams were going to lose in the divisional round, I'd say probably an A- season. But after a 1-4 start, it's an A+ season, in my opinion, especially knowing that the defense is darn good already in certain aspects. That front four has been amazing all year. Imagine Jared Verse, probably going to win NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year, NFC, Defensive Rookie of the Year. I'm blanking here. Defensive Rookie of the Year is going to be Jared Verse, right? He's going to get better in the offseason. Braden Fisk leads all rookies in sacks. He's going to get better. Kobe Turner is supposed to be young in NFL standards, and instead he's already probably an all-pro level player, going to get better because he's still young. Yes. Is the secondary awful? Unfortunately, yes. Yes. Is the linebacking core pretty weak? Yes. But you have a core defensive line that can be there for the next 10 years. That's going to get better this offseason, combined with an offense that, sure, it's aging a bit, but it can be good enough. It can be good enough for sure. And so what do the Rams need to do? You go get an elite guy or two in the secondary. You maybe inject a little bit more young blood in the offense. And this team should be the favorite to win the NFC West next year and be right back in a situation like they were this year. I don't think Stafford's washed at all. Cooper Kupp, is he good enough to be a number 1 receiver at this point in his career? No, but he doesn't have to be. And he's a good number 2, right? He's a good number 2. In some ways, this team reminds me of the Vikings kind of towards the end of the Kirk Cousins era, where Kirk Cousins, I mean, he was never as good as Matthew Stafford's been, but maybe this stage of Matthew Stafford is kind of closer to a Kirk Cousins on the Vikings than a, Patrick Mahomes, right? But you had Justin Jefferson. We have ours in Puka. Adam Thielen was the number 2. Cooper Kupp is our Adam Thielen now, with a great run game, a great offensive mind, right? Sounds like the Vikings, and a defense that certainly can force turnovers and be elite at times. So this is a team that I expect to probably be back in the NFC Divisional Round again. next year. And so to say that, instead of saying this was our last hurrah, which it felt like this could have been the year where the Rams finished the year, 9-8 and don't make the playoffs, and that's the last hurrah, and there's questions about blowing it up in the offseason. No need to have questions about blowing it up in the offseason right now. This team was a 3rd-and-2 conversion away from from hosting an NFC Championship game. And now the defense is going to get better before you add some pieces, and you're going to add some pieces. So I think it's an A+ here. I really do. Despite losing this game, despite the missed opportunity. And let's be honest, it ends up being a really big missed opportunity. If the Lions beat the Commanders by 21 and we lose this game, knowing that we're probably going to lose by 21 to the Lions next year or next week in Detroit anyways, maybe it hurts a little bit less than knowing we would have hosted a rookie quarterback in the NFC Championship game, and you therefore are probably the favorite, right? So because of that, it certainly hurts because it feels like a missed opportunity. I mean, if the Eagles just kicked our butt and beat us by 3 touchdowns, it would have hurt, but it would have been that. But you really can make the argument the Rams should have won this game, and then you really can make the argument that they would have been favorites next week to try to go to the Super Bowl. And so that makes it sting. And maybe that makes it an A season instead of an A+ season, but still, you have to say it was a successful year for the Los Angeles Rams and Sean McVay. That's going to do it here for our last Locked On Rams postcast of the season. Once again, shout out to everybody in here, man. It's been a fun year. Seeing guys like Craig and BC here every single week. Got Jeff in here who says, Happy New Year. It's almost baseball season. Jeff, like many of these people here, regularly join me on the Locked On Angels postcast all baseball season. So yes, I'm done with the Locked On UCLA postcast for football. I'm now done with the Locked On Rams postcasts, but the Locked On Angels postcast is just a couple of months away now. And so looking forward to joining all of you Angels fans or just baseball fans or just LA sports fans in general on those postcasts, 4, 5, 6 times a week, right? So we still have plenty more time together ahead of ourselves. But as for the people that are only here for the Rams, it was a fun year. It really was, both for the team and for me doing these shows. So shout out to all of you. Thanks so much. Please go follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Gavin Carlson _. Got some exciting news coming up soon in terms of a personal standpoint. Excited to share that all soon as well. But for now, enjoy that Ravens-Bills game. I'm, bummed I'm missing the start of that. I'm curious what's happened already. I'm certainly going to enjoy the rest of it right now. You do the same, and let's go. Let's have a great offseason, Rams, and let's be right back here next year. Shout out to all of you. Thanks so much. And one more time. We have to do it. Even after this heartbreaking loss, we have to do it. Whose house? Rams house, baby. It was a fun year. Appreciate you all so much. Go enjoy that epic game that's happening right now. And I'll see you Rams fans next year. I'll see you Angels fans in a couple months. Take care.